You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 140. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us today. So today I, Kaylee, am coming at you with a solo episode. So one thing I wanted to talk about today was kindness and compassion. So as teachers, we want to create a safe space for our students where they feel comfortable being themselves and advocating for their own needs. So as teachers, we do our best to treat our students with kindness and compassion. However, conflicts between our students, or worse yet, bullying, can create a classroom atmosphere that goes against our values and everything we're trying to create for our students in our classroom. But how do we ensure that our students are treating each other well and respectfully and kindly and contributing to the caring classroom culture we want to create? Well, we have to do that by deliberately giving our students the opportunities to practice kindness and compassion and build on these skills over time. So we have to think of kindness and compassion as like a muscle that needs to be flexed and practiced and built over time. So just like anything else we teach in the classroom, structure, routine, and repetition are keys to success. So in this episode, I'm going to teach you how to systematically teach the skills of kindness and compassion so that you can meet your goals of creating a positive classroom culture for both you and your students. But before we get into the interview, we're excited to share this week's sponsor, which is EduCalm Classroom. This year is our opportunity to equip our students and ourselves with the tools we all need to be resilient, to have a growth mindset, to have breathing strategies for stressful situations, and to spread kindness and compassion. The thing is, with so much on our plates this year, we need resources that are simple, ready to use, and save us time and energy. Luckily, EduCalm Classroom checks off all those boxes. EduCalm Classroom is the social-emotional learning program that gives you a ready-to-use mindfulness lesson for every day of the school year. All you have to do is press play and enjoy 5 minutes of calm with your K-12 students, in English or en français. Once you've listened to the daily audio, you and your students will both feel ready for a productive school day. Think you don't have time to invest in social-emotional learning? Think again. Teachers that use EduCalm Classroom report that they gain instruction and prep time back. Brandy, a grade 2 teacher, told us, "We invest in this time and got it back tenfold." Emily told us, "My students are better able to focus and learn in the mornings after our practice, which means less classroom management for me." Whether you're back in the classroom with your students this year or doing remote teaching, EduCalm Classroom is the resource that you can depend on to help your students feel calm, focused, and ready to learn. Sign up for EduCalm Classroom now by going to www.educalm.com. Plus, we want to help you feel completely confident using EduCalm Classroom to support mental health and well-being this year. So, when you sign up for EduCalm Classroom before October 31st, 2021, we'll send you our EduCalm Classroom Level 1 online training, a $99 value, for free. You can watch this training video from the comfort of your own home or classroom and feel totally confident using EduCalm Classroom with your students. What are you waiting for? Make this the year you prioritize student well-being as the foundation for calm and focused learning. Sign up for your EduCalm Classroom membership today at www.educalm.com. That's spelled EduCalme.com. All right, now let's get into this episode. So to start off, I just want to reiterate that kindness and compassion is something that we have to teach. It's something that students need to practice. The students that we have in our classroom, whether they're in kindergarten or whether they're in grade 12, they are developing their social emotional skills. So that means they're learning through trial and error how to be social, how to interact with other kids their age, with other kids older or younger, with adults. And so as they're practicing, yes, they're going to make mistakes. So our job as the teacher isn't to necessarily avoid all conflict or make sure things never go wrong, but to have kind of a plan of action to help our students learn how to move forward from any social or emotional kind of mistakes or errors that they might have made as they're learning. So we talk a lot on this podcast about routine and repetition, that if we want something to stick with our students, if we want them to build the skills that are important for no matter what they do in their life. So if we want them to build the skills of mindfulness, or if we want them to build the skills of self-regulation, that we have to practice it a little bit every day. And so the same is true with kindness and compassion. So when we're actually focusing on purpose, on kindness and compassion in our classroom, so we're being proactive about it rather than reactive. That means teaching it ahead of time so that when problems or conflicts occur, our students already have a toolkit that they can use and start implementing when that conflict or that problem arises. So we're not trying to teach them a new skill in that moment of heightened emotion, but rather we're feeling that heightened emotion and then saying, okay, what are the skills that we have to manage this right now? What have we learned that we can do to get through this difficult moment? So we want to be teaching kindness and compassion ahead of time to lay that foundation for good choices in the future. And if we're teaching these skills to our students in a structured way, then oftentimes the side benefit of this is that us as the teachers will be doing less conflict resolution ourselves, because a lot of the smaller problems our students will be able to resolve on their own because of the skills that they have been learning over time with a intentional practice of kindness and compassion. So when we're practicing kindness and compassion, we really are helping to reduce conflict in our classroom. And we're also encouraging compassionate conflict resolution. This conflict resolution that is allowing students to sort of put themselves in the shoes of the other person, even if they might have a different mindset or they might have a different perspective. They're learning to look at situations through the lenses of another person, through the perspective of another person when we're practicing kindness and compassion on purpose. So it just makes it a lot easier when you have to intervene as the teacher to be able to kind of draw on what they've learned about seeing things from a different perspective. So as we're practicing kindness, we are also talking about not only kindness towards others, but kindness towards ourselves. So we often kind of think of teaching kindness towards others, being nice to others, but really at kind of the foundation of it, it's that the way that we treat others is really a reflection of how we treat ourselves, right? If we are feeling good about ourselves and confident in ourselves and proud of ourselves and happy with ourselves, we tend to treat others that way as well. When we're having an off day, when we're feeling down on ourselves, we tend to perceive others through that negative perspective as well. So if we haven't learned how to be kind to ourselves and forgiving of ourselves when we make mistakes, it can be really hard to be kind and forgiving towards others. So when we're doing a kindness and compassion practice, we're really practicing that skill of being aware of how we are judging ourselves and forgiving ourselves and actively practicing saying kind words to ourselves, and then also doing that for others. So there's actually a style of meditation called loving kindness meditation or metta meditation. So with this practice, what's involved is practicing generating feelings of love and kindness. So as we practice generating those feelings, we start to learn, how do those feelings feel in our body? We pay attention to how our body feels, how our heart feels, the weight of our body when we're kind of feeling those good, warm feelings. So we do this through sending thoughts and feelings of kindness and compassion towards ourselves and others in kind of like a growing circle. So it's really this scaffolded practice that usually is practiced in one sort of guided mindfulness or meditation practice, where you move through these stages of feeling kindness and sending kindness towards different stages of people. So you start with sending kindness towards people that it's easy to send kindness towards, and then you move kind of outward in this circle towards sending kindness towards people that it might feel a little bit more difficult to send them kindness. So it's, like I said, building on this skill of starting when it's easy and then building that toolkit to allow us to practice kindness in times that it isn't as easy. So in a metta meditation, a loving kindness meditation, it starts with sending kindness to someone that you care about. So you are guided through thinking about, envisioning someone, kind of imagining it in your mind of someone that you care about. So it's really easy to feel feelings of kindness and compassion towards this person because it's just natural. And once you've felt those sensations in your body, you're kind of like priming the pump of kindness and compassion and those good feelings in your body. When it's easy, then next you move on to imagining someone in your life that's just neutral. So it might be someone that you sort of pass by on the street every day. So you recognize them, but you don't really have any particular feelings towards them. Or maybe someone in your class that you aren't really friends with, but you don't have any negative feelings towards them either. You're just neutral about them. So imagining that person and imagining sending kind thoughts and feelings towards that person. And as you do that, it feels good. It's a good feeling in your body when you're practicing these feelings. So now that that pump is primed even more, the next step is you imagine someone that you have a more difficult relationship with. So it might be someone that, you get into fights with often, or you've gotten into an argument with recently. And then you focus on sending kindness and compassion to this person. So this is a great practice of appreciating someone that it might not be always easy to appreciate, or even forgiving someone that it might be hard to forgive, or even just sending them kind thoughts, even if you don't fully feel that it's true for you in your body. So you're flexing this muscle of forgiveness and appreciation and kindness, even when it isn't easy. And it's a little bit easier in this instance because you've already sort of generated these feelings of kindness. So your body and your mind are already in a state of being ready to share kindness because you've started in that state. So once you've moved through imagining and sending kindness to someone that might be more difficult, then you move on to sending kindness to yourself. Now, for some people, this can actually be very difficult. And I've had some really interesting conversations with my students, especially middle school and high school students that are like, well, I shouldn't be saying nice things to myself. That's being conceited, or that's being, that's having a big ego. So it's really interesting to sort of talk about this with your students and teach them that it's really important to send kind words to yourself, to encourage yourself, because that inner voice and that inner critic is going to have a huge weight on how you act in life, right? If you have an inner voice that's telling you you're a terrible person, you're mean, you don't have any friends, well, then you're going to act that way to those around you. If you are saying to yourself, I'm a kind person, I'm a good friend, I'm caring, then you are going to act that way because you believe that that's true for yourself. So that could definitely become an interesting conversation with your students as you work through that part of the practice. And for some people, sending kindness to themselves is a little bit easier. So that's an interesting experience in and of itself. So once we have practiced sending kind feelings towards ourselves, oftentimes that can be kind of a very healing sensation, a healing feeling to be kind to yourself on purpose. So the next step is then sending kindness to all of the world, all of the creatures of the world, the earth itself, all of the people in the world, and really feeling this kind of expansion of kindness and compassion and well-being towards all of the world. This idea that as we all feel better and do better, it lifts everyone up. So it's this practice of lifting other people up and lifting ourselves up so that as we are kind of all feeling better, we can all do better and we can create a lot more positive action in the world, and really move towards really great outcomes for, ourselves, for our friends, for our classroom, for our school, for our country, for the world, all in all. So this is a practice that can be done all at once. So you could guide your students through an actual loving kindness or metta meditation. So that's something that you'd probably be able to find a script online, or if you've done this kind of practice before, you might feel comfortable just guiding your students through this practice. Or it might be something that you find a video online. Now, of course, we have this all ready for you in the Educom Classroom program if it feels like a right fit for you to purchase the Educom Classroom program, and then this is all ready to go for you. But if you aren't ready to purchase the program or it isn't the right fit for you, there's definitely lots of resources that you'd be able to find online to help you through this. So I'll just repeat. With this practice, the first step is sending thoughts and feelings of kindness and compassion towards someone that we have a good relationship with. So someone that it's really easy to send those feelings towards. Next, we send it to someone who's neutral. So we don't have positive or negative feelings about that person. Next, we send kindness to someone that we have a more difficult relationship. Then we send kindness to ourselves, and then we send kindness to the world. Now, with younger kids, like, your kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, you can let them know, like, they can send kindness to their pets or, their family members or their friends. So you might have a discussion maybe before or after about who are people that you care about in your life. What does it mean to think of someone that's neutral in your life? So you might want to do a little bit of front loading for the younger students with this. With the older students, then you might be able to just jump right into it and then discuss sort of what they noticed after the practice. So doing this actual seated practice where they're closing their eyes and imagining moving through these different practices, imagining seeing the person that they're sending kindness to is really important. Our thoughts create our emotions. So as we're closing our eyes and envisioning these people and the kindness that we're sending, it's actually changing our biochemistry. It is changing the emotional messengers in our body, and it's really changing the state of our body. It's changing how our brain is functioning. It's changing how our body is functioning. So this can be a very, very powerful practice and can leave the class just feeling good and ready for the day. So I would suggest practicing this often. So maybe you practice the same kindness practice for a whole week in the Educom Classroom program. What we do is we actually break these down into 5 different audios. So we have audio 1 is sending kindness to someone I care about. Audio 2 is sending kindness to someone neutral. Audio 3 is sending kindness to someone with whom I have a difficult relationship. Audio 4 is sending kindness to myself. And then audio 5 is sending kindness to the world. So they build on each other in 5-minute practices. So really easy to integrate into your, morning meeting or just the start of your, the period with your students if you teach in high school. So practicing it on a routine. So you're practicing it at the same time each day. Students know it's coming. They know to prepare for it. They know the expectations. You've made it very clear what your expectations are during this guided practice. So with the EduCalm Classroom program, with the audios, with the younger students, you would listen to audio 1 for a whole week. So that repetition is really important. Then move on to audio 2 the next week. With older students, you can do audio 1 on Monday, audio 2 on Tuesday. So throughout the week, they're kind of building it each day. And then the following week, you would start from 1 again. So you want to be working on this for about a month. That's always how we structure things, because that repetition is really important. When you're doing a mindfulness practice, it's very different. Your experience of the practice is very different from day to day, depending on where your emotions are at, where your thoughts are, how much sleep you've gotten, if you're hungry, who's in class with you that day, what's going on later. There's so many things that affect this practice that repetition is really important to give you the opportunity to experience the same practice, but from a different state of mind on a different day. So repetition, repetition, repetition. Now, doing this actual practice is teaching students to generate feelings of kindness and notice how it feels in their body to be kind. So that's the mindfulness part of this. So when we're practicing mindfulness, we're paying attention to the present moment on purpose with openness and curiosity. So having our students actually practice this like they would practice a sport. So, you can't just tell students, okay, watch this video on basketball and now go play basketball like a pro. They need to actually practice bouncing that ball, throwing that ball, passing that ball to be able to get better at it. The same is true with practicing kindness and compassion. We need to actually feel those feelings, have those thoughts, actually practice it in our body so that we know the sensations, we know the feel, we get the muscle memory of what kindness and compassion feels like, so that when we're asked to be kind to someone, or it's difficult to be kind to someone because a conflict is starting, we know how to kind of turn on the light of that kindness and compassion because we've practiced it so many times that it is muscle memory. So that is really kind of the base of practicing mindful or kindness and compassion through mindfulness, is feeling it in your body. Now, there's also all sorts of really great kindness activities that we can do to keep building on just creating a culture of kindness in our classroom. So I have 3 different activities that I'll explain to you. And of course, these are in EduCalm Classroom, but if that isn't the right fit for you, you can just go off what I'm explaining today. But if you want it ready-made and just ready to print out and go, then EduCalm Classroom is the right tool for you. So the first activity is the kindness box. So with this activity out of the 3, this one gives you kind of the most control over the outcome, because you can really make sure that you are watching and controlling what is being shared from student to student. So with the kindness box, what you're going to do is give your students a piece of paper and ask them to write a compliment to someone else in the class. Then everyone puts their papers in the box, and you take the time to go through those papers. This is your opportunity to kind of make sure that there's something for everyone in there, that no one's been left out, or that anything written there wasn't maybe rude. You can filter out at this point before sharing it. So this can be done a bunch of different ways. You can just have a kindness box set up in the class where students can write compliments whenever they want and add it to the box whenever they want. And then maybe one time a week you read it out, or you can have this in a really structured way. So maybe you start with your guided kindfulness is a word that one of the teachers that uses EduCalm Classroom had told us that they started using because one of their students called it kindfulness. They said, when are we going to be doing our kindfulness practice today? So cute. So as you're doing your kindness mindfulness practice, your kindfulness practice, maybe right after, you give students the opportunity to write something kind on a piece of paper and add it to the box. So it can be as structured or as unstructured as you want, but the idea here is that it's intentional. Our goal here is to build kindness and compassion into our classroom routine, into our actions, into the procedures of our classroom. So that's option number one. Option number two is the kindness circle. So this one's really fun. And for those of you that are in elementary school, if you have kind of your like helper of the day, this can kind of fit really well into what your daily helper activity or structure kind of looks like. So I did this when I taught in grade 6 and it went over really well. Now, that being said, we did this activity more towards the end of the year. So they already had a really strong foundation of mindfulness. We had practiced kindness and compassion. So it was something that we were working on. The culture of the classroom was very well established already before we did this because it's very on the spot. So there was already a big sense of community and connection in the classroom before we started this. Now, the way that it works is that the person of the day sits inside of the circle. So everyone sits in a circle. We would do our mindfulness practice first, and then right after the mindfulness practice, the person that's sitting inside the circle would listen as we would all take turns giving them a compliment. So it would just kind of my expectations, what I explained to them before we started was, give them a compliment on something about their personality. So we don't want to hear about, their clothes or the Game Boy that they just got or whatever. It's not about the things that they have. It's about the way that they act and what they bring to this classroom. What is something positive that they bring to our classroom community? And this went really well. And man, the look of just joy on the students' faces when it was their turn to be in the center of the circle was amazing. And the things that the students would say to each other were just so beautiful. I absolutely loved doing this. Now, again, because it's so on the spot, you really have to trust that your students are going to say nice things. So there's definitely front loading that's important here. Now, the next activity is a class compliments paper. So with this activity, each student has a piece of paper that they write their name on the top of, and then we go around the class just taking turns writing on each person's paper. So then at the end of the activity, each person has a paper that's theirs full of compliments from everyone in the classroom. So you can do this in a lot of different ways. It's kind of like, you can almost think about it as like a yearbook type of situation where everyone's writing something nice. It can be short, it can be long. Depending on the grade, you can model what it would look like. So doing kind of an I do, we do, you do situation where you model how you would write out a compliment. Maybe with the older grades, you talk about what kind of compliments are appropriate in a classroom setting. And again, making sure that we're talking about what are the things that you appreciate about this person? What do they bring to the classroom culture that you really appreciate? What is it that you like about them? Or do you just have a specific, feeling of kindness that you want to send to them? Maybe you know of something that might be going difficult in their life and you want to give them some encouragement. That can be a good place to do it. Now, with this one, I would suggest that you are going around and kind of reading things as students are going, and that you pick up all the papers at the end and read through them all before handing them back to the students. Just, of course, to be sure that everything is actually kind, and that the paper that students get afterwards with all these compliments on them truly are compliments. Now, I'm reminding you of this because I made this mistake the first time I did it. Now, it all ended well and kind of perfectly in the end, but what ended up happening was that there was 2 students in my class that had been very close friends in previous years, and over the years their relationship had kind of grown apart, and they both felt they kind of started having this negative relationship towards each other. So I didn't catch that one of the students had written something that wasn't really a compliment. It wasn't mean, but the student that read it really took it hard. It was very sad for them when they got that message. because there was just, years of kind of negative feelings between the two leading up to that moment. But thankfully, the student told me about this and how it upset them. And so it was a great opportunity for me to take both students aside together and for us to work through this conflict that they had been having over the years. And interestingly enough, it had been a couple of years that they had been kind of in conflict with each other, not friends anymore. And it turned out that both of them were kind of acting mean towards each other out of the sadness that they weren't as close as they used to be. So they had kind of drifted apart and then sort of turned on each other because they were upset that they weren't close anymore. So it was really actually great to have the opportunity to talk that out so that they could express their emotions and their feelings and then totally turn it around. And then for the rest of the year, they were friends again. And it was awesome. So thankfully, because we'd been practicing kindness and compassion and mindfulness for so long, that conflict resolution went really smoothly and really well because they were able to explain their feelings. They were able to articulate what was bothering them. They were able to see each other's perspectives as they talked through how they were feeling. And so it was actually a really great opportunity to shift that relationship for the better. So 3 kindness activities. You have the kindness box, you have the kindness circle, and you have the class compliments paper. So those are all in Educom Classroom, ready to print and go, but you can definitely make that on your own as well. So lots of ideas here of how to really intentionally structure kindness and compassion into your classroom. Taking the time to do this will definitely come back to you through less conflict, meaning less classroom management, meaning more time to focus on academics, and just generally a better sense of feeling good coming into your classroom, feeling that you've built a culture of positivity in this classroom and that your students also feel safe and comfortable coming to the classroom. And we are intentionally choosing kindness. Even when it's hard, we're flexing our kindness muscles, we're flexing our muscles for forgiveness. We're flexing our muscles of just like purposely putting more positivity into the world, especially in times where things can feel heavy. So again, remember, children and adolescents, they have to make mistakes in order to grow. So they're not going to be perfect 100% of the time, even if we are practicing this in a structured way. But our goal as teachers is to help our students build their social emotional skills by giving them these concrete opportunities to practice kindness and compassion. And then this is likely going to reduce conflict in your classroom, but it won't eliminate it fully. That just isn't realistic for human development. It's important for our brain to have difficult moments that we have to learn how to find solutions for it. So you can be there ready with solutions and you've already helped your students build their toolkit so that they know solutions as well as they might be going through conflict. So not going to be perfect 100% of the time. That's okay. Practicing kindness and compassion on purpose is going to build skills over time. So just a reminder that all of this is ready to go, ready to be used in English et en français in Educom Classroom. If you want to check out Educom Classroom, our social emotional learning and mindfulness program for the classroom, that is ready to go. You just have to press play. Sign up for our free trial. It gives you access to training on how to use the program, as well as the first unit to the program, Introduction to Mindfulness. So that's going to give you a really good idea of how our program is structured, whether it's the right fit for you, whether it's what you're looking for your classroom. And then if you like what's in that first unit, if you sign up for an Educom Classroom membership, then you'll get a whole year worth of ready-to-use resources so that you will have a mindfulness practice for every single day of the school year. You don't have to be the expert. You just press play and practice with your students so you can learn alongside them and also benefit from the mindfulness practices as well. All right. So you can check this out at educalm.com. So that's educalme.com. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We appreciate you so much, and we appreciate all the work that you're doing in the world. Good luck bringing mindfulness into your classroom. If you appreciated this episode, if it brought value to you, then please share it with someone, maybe a friend or a colleague that you think would get value from it too. All right, have a wonderful week.